Hey everyone, have you ever stuck your foot in your mouth or maybe sent that text message or email which you wish you could just pull back because you've just stuck your foot in your electronic mouth? So that's what we're going to talk about today is foot and mouth syndrome, and I think we can all relate. So before we dive into that, let me just welcome everyone. My name is Ruth Hendrickson. I run RHM International. The website is ruthhendrickson.org. And if you go there, you can find out all sorts of information as to how to grow in your walk with the Lord, how to receive ministry, how to get trained for ministry yourself, just all sorts of blogs, resources, not just by me, but also by others that can just help you as you grow. My heart's desire is to see you walking in the fullness of who God has called you to be. So again, that website is ruthhendrickson.org. All right, foot and mouth syndrome. Sometimes I think when I think about foot and mouth syndrome, that's usually actually always when we've said something that we should not have said, right? And we just want to pull it back. Sometimes I think if we'd stuck that foot in our mouth sooner, it would have kept us quiet. We would have been choking on our foot and we wouldn't have been able to get the words out, right? I mean, I remember when my kids were little, and one of my kids especially, they would sit in their car seat and they would suck on their toes. They had the flexibility to get those toes up into their mouths, and I still smile every time I see a baby sucking on their toes because it's really a literal picture of having one's foot in their mouth, right? And it makes my mind go into all sorts of different directions, and not to mention it's cute as cute can be. But again, when we talk as an adult about having our foot in our mouth, it means that we have said something that we should not have said, right? Okay, we have just blurted out something that we should not have blurted out. And in scripture, we have a number of examples of this, but my favorite's always going to be Peter with this. He was more adept at sticking his foot in his mouth than any of the other disciples. He was courageous, he was bold, he would talk before he thought, and I can relate. Okay, so how many of you can relate? You could just put your hand up in the air right now and say, yeah, that's me. I can relate. I love what John MacArthur says. He says, no one speaks as often as Peter. No one has spoken to the Lord, or let me try that again. No one speaks as often as Peter. No one is spoken to by the Lord as often as Peter. No disciple is so frequently rebuked by the Lord as Peter. And no disciple ever rebukes the Lord except Peter. No one else confessed Christ more boldly. Yet, no disciple ever verbally denied Christ as forcefully or as publicly. Peter was eager, aggressive, bold, and you guessed it, outspoken. In other words, he was really, really good at sticking his foot in his mouth. You notice he was bold, he was courageous. Sometimes every gift from the Lord, okay, also if it's not used correctly opens up a counterpart, okay? And we all have growth points too, where God can give us a real courage and a boldness and a strength, but it has to grow, it has to mature, okay, to really be used in the fullness of how God wants us to use it. And sometimes part of that growth process is we go through sticking our foot in our mouths, but we have to decide in that moment that we put that foot in our mouth and we're like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. We said that email that we should not have said. No, let me get it back. We shot off that text message. No, come back. These various places that we have where we can't just hit a delete button. It's out there. It's out there. So just one little caveat here, watch what you say on social media. Are you representing the kingdom of heaven? Because you know what, you can hit that delete button, but there's tracks of all this stuff. What are you putting out there? All right. So, and then think of your emails and think of your responses. Oh, good grief. We can get in so much trouble with that stuff and with this mouth that we all have. Okay, so Peter was really good at sticking his foot in his mouth. In Matthew 16, Jesus goes and he asks the disciples a question. That question is, who do people really think I am? Okay, now let's not kid ourselves. Jesus already knew all the answers. Okay, he already knew what people were saying. He knew what they were thinking. Nothing's hidden from him. And yet, what I think he was doing in this moment was challenging the disciples' hearts by providing them with an invitation or an opportunity to look deep into their core belief system. In other words, it was like, okay, who do people say I am? Who do you say I am? All right, let's go deeper. Who do others say? Now let's take it home. Who do you say I am? And as he asks that question and takes it inward so that they're going inward, Peter blurts out, "You are Christ, the Son of the living God." That's in Matthew 16:16. I could just see him. I could feel like this awkward silence. Like Jesus says, "Well, who do you say I am?" And there's this like, well, what's the right answer? What are we going to do? What do we say? And Peter, probably didn't like that silence. He's just like, "You're the Christ. You're the Son of the living God." He blurted out. This time, it wasn't that he blurted it out and put his foot in his mouth. He had blurted out truth. He had proclaimed or declared truth. And with this, he actually opened the door for Jesus to speak into his life. You see, Jesus goes and he tells Peter, number one, that he didn't understand this himself, that God had revealed this to Peter. Okay, this isn't something that Peter came up with. It was wisdom given from the very throne room of heaven. And then Jesus also goes and speaks about Peter's life, that on this rock, I'm going to build my church. In other words, he's saying, you're going to be a major leader in bringing my kingdom to this earth, at expanding the territory of taking it well beyond. So you think about all the times that Peter blowing it, and he's still going to blow it more. Okay, he's not done sticking his foot in his mouth. He has a ways to go. But here, Jesus, in this moment, Jesus is speaking affirmation and life into him, and that he hears from God. And that's really important, affirmation, life, and that he actually hears from God. The reason I share this is because sometimes when we're on the mountaintop experiences, which is where Peter would have been right in this moment, they can be immediately followed by a foot in the mouth syndrome moment. Can you relate? It's like everything's going great and you think that you have some authority to speak into a situation or with somebody, and you say the most stupid thing. It was inappropriate. It shouldn't have been said. And it's like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I text that? Why did I email that? Why did I put that out there? Why did I respond that way? Okay. And we just want to pull it back. It's that foot and mouth syndrome. I grew up in Michigan and we had ice toboggan runs. If you don't know what I'm talking about, think of it like a bobsled run. Okay. And so we would bundle up in the wintertime. We'd climb to the top with a push. We'd be off down that ride. Now we're going down a sheer sheet of ice. Okay. On a metal track. So the friction we'd have on our snowmobile suits, they were called. If you don't know what a snowmobile suit is, think like what you would wear to go skiing. Okay. So we'd had those on, but they would rub the side of the tracks because the tracks were narrow. Toboggans are narrow. So the tracks were narrow. And of course, there'd be numerous ones of us on the toboggan. We would see as many on a toboggan as the toboggan would hold. So your legs are a little bit out past the toboggan, which means that the side of your pants are going to rub along that metal, that very, very cold metal run, which created enough friction because of how fast we were going that we would actually get singe holes or burn holes in the sides of our pants whenever we went down the toboggan runs. So, but that plunge down, okay, it was bumpy. All right. But it was also fast. It was fast and furious. Okay. It went very, very fast. And sometimes that's how it feels. We have these mountaintop moments, these wonderful moments, and then boom, it's like this drop down. We stick our foot in our mouths. And I think if you really think about it, you could see that happening with your children. You could see it happening as you were a child growing up. You could see it corporate. If you're working in corporate America, you can see it. Pastoral staff, trust me, I was the bold one. I often put my foot in my mouth and then had to work through it later. I had lots of experience with that. I still do it, quite honestly. And so it's what do we do in that moment is the question. What do we do when we've had that mountaintop experience and we feel like we have some credibility, or maybe we have some permission to speak into a situation, and then we just do something stupid? We just do not handle it correctly at the moment. So we go on from here in Matthew 16, and Jesus goes on and he speaks to his disciples about what was still to come, that he was going to suffer, he was going to die, he was going to be crucified, he would raise from the dead. But it was more than the disciples could comprehend. They've been traveling with him, they've been seeing the signs, wonders, and miracles. But to hear him talking about death and what on earth, resurrection, what does he mean? He's gonna be handed over, he's gonna be killed, and he's gonna be resurrected. What is this? And of course they try to protect him. Of course they would. I mean, how often do we say, I'll be there for you, and then we're not? But our intentions are to be there until the situation arises. And so I think as Peter, just coming off this mountaintop experience, and he's thinking, well, okay, I've gotten in with Jesus right now. I know who he is. I proclaimed he's the Son of God. He says, on this rock, I'm going to build my church. And So he goes and pulls Jesus aside, and I think he's thinking, well, I need to get Jesus in the right headspace, because right now, if I don't know what this crazy stuff is he's talking about, but this can't happen. This is the Lord. This is this is God. This is the Christ, the Son of the living God. How could man kill him? Okay, so there's some rationale going on here. Think of Peter. I've seen the signs, wonders, and miracles. How can man kill him? He's the Son of God. I just decreed and declared he's the Son of God. Jesus acknowledged I was right, that God revealed that to me. So anyways, Matthew 16, verses 22 to 23. Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Far be it from you, Lord. This should never happen to you." But Jesus turned, he said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan." Ooh, that's a strong rebuke. "You are a hindrance to me. You are not setting your mind on the things of God, but rather the things of man." So just a few minutes ago, God had revealed something to Peter as to who Jesus was, and he had blurted it out. Now it's gone the opposite way. It's the foot and mouth. Peter, you're not setting your mind on the things of God, but you're looking only on this realm. You're focused on the things of man. You're in the wrong spot. And even to say, "Get behind me, Satan," I'm like, wow. Here's Peter full of faith and confidence from his last conversation, and gets rebuked by Jesus. Yikes. Okay, foot and mouth syndrome. Stick that foot and drop back. Peter's probably going, "Oh no, drop back. I said the wrong thing. I gave the wrong answer." So here's the key. We all have times when we stick the proverbial foot in our mouth, right? The question is, what do we do in that moment? It doesn't matter if it's a conversation with a friend, a text message, an email. It doesn't matter if it's a conversation with the Lord, like what Peter was having, or anything else. Okay, there are times when we stick our foot in our mouth. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do in the moment of correction, the moment of rebuke, the moment of horror, when we're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that"? What are we going to do? You see, we have to decide what we're going to do in that moment. Are we going to be silenced from it, or are we going to grow by it? You see, Peter didn't stay in that place. Yes, he was reprimanded, very stern rebuke, public rebuke, but he didn't run and hide. He didn't exclude himself from ministry. He would mess up again. Yeah, he wasn't done sticking his foot in his mouth. He was bold. He was courageous. He was outspoken. He was going to deny Jesus 3 times. There were all sorts of things that were going to happen. But you see, God would still use him because he was growing it up. The key for us is to know that we will say the wrong things. We are going to stick that foot in our mouth periodically. So to just be quick to acknowledge what you've done, okay, and seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness from others, seek forgiveness from God, and forgive yourself. Learn from it. Never allow the times that you mess up to silence your witness for Jesus Christ. Peter didn't. I'm so grateful Peter didn't. I'm so grateful he was bold and courageous for the kingdom of heaven. This one who was sticking his foot in and out of his mouth as he made these mistakes, he would probably be one of the most bold of all the disciples, and he would be a confident, powerful evangelist as time passed. I mean, he was incredibly bold as a disciple. But God was refining him, and that's something that we have to understand when we stick our foot in our mouth. Is God can use that to refine us and to grow us up. He will do that just like he did with Peter. He kept bringing him back. He kept bringing him back. He kept bringing him back. He will do that for you also. He will do that for me. He put in Peter's very DNA that he would be bold, he would be courageous, he would be outspoken. It just had to be refined to be used for the glory of God. So be aware of it. Take ownership of it. Don't try to excuse it away. But man, when you see that foot go in that mouth and you're like, "No, pull it back. Take responsibility for it. Allow the Lord to grow you. Look at what's behind it." Sometimes we stick our foot in our mouth because there's a level of insecurity, and we're trying to compensate for something. Let the Lord bring the healing, because you are created to be bold. Even if you're an introvert, there's an aspect of you that's created to be bold for the kingdom of heaven. Might not look like Peter, but you're still to be bold for the things of the Lord. If you're an extrovert, you could look very much like Peter. And that foot in the mouth needs to be tamed. That mouth needs to be tamed to be used by the glory of God. But the thing is, God will use it all because he has created you. So have a great day today. Watch for that foot in the mouth. If you need to, just, Man, just think of a little kid sucking on their toes and then say, okay, how does that look as an adult? It's really, really cute in a little infant sucking on their toes. But man, when we put our foot in our mouths, it is not pretty. And so again, but we don't want to let it shut us down. We want to let God refine us so that we can walk into the plans and purposes that He has for us. All right, that's it for today. I've jabbered at you long enough. Have a fantastic day. Be bold for the kingdom of heaven. Allow God to grow. You know that you are here for such a time as this. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. God has great plans for you, and they are good. They are for you to prosper. He will not destroy you. He is out to grow you, to build you up, to have you step into the fullness of the man or woman that He has called you to be. Have a great day. Be so blessed. And again, please share this, spread the word, share it with your friends. Put a note on it as to why it impacted you, how you can relate. And so please comment, share, review, rate, all that good stuff. So again, thank you for joining me. Have a great day. Keep walking with the Lord, and I will see you next time.